Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now, leave any comments in the comment section, please like and share the video as well. Now, I'm sorry later than advertised, things have just got in the way this week unfortunately, but I am here now for Ask SCW and taking your questions from Twitter and from Instagram as well. We've got one this week as well from YouTube. Of course, you can leave a question in the comments below and I'm happy to take them for the next episode of Ask SCW. If you want to follow me on Twitter or and ask a question on there, it is SCW Wrestling Channel or at SCW_Steve. Of course, on Instagram, all in one word, SCW The Wrestling Channel. So that's all from there. But let's go to the questions this week. The first one comes from Samuel Decius. Where would you like to see Drew McIntyre end up at? Raw, Smackdown, or NXT? Of course, referring to the draft, which is going to be taking place this week, of course, starting on SmackDown and will continue on Raw. For me, I think Drew McIntyre needs to be the top guy or one of the top heels on the second show. I think he's done NXT, and we've seen Finn Balor go to NXT, and I don't feel that it would be necessary at this stage for Drew McIntyre to go to NXT. If he was to go to any NXT brand, I would like to see him at NXT UK, but I'm sure many would see that as a waste because this guy's got so much potential and could be and should be a top guy within WWE. So for me, I think Raw and SmackDown are the best suited places for those things to come to fruition. But I do think right now, if he was to be, for example, on SmackDown, we now have the feud with Brock Lesnar and Cain Velasquez, as well as that we've got Tyson Fury with the Braun Strowman stuff. I do think Braun Strowman will end up on SmackDown as well. I don't know, there's just a lot here where I could see Drew McIntyre would be overshadowed. So for me, I think a better suited place for him would be Monday Night Raw. Now, you could argue and say, well, currently we had The Fiend there. We could have maybe one or two more top heels turn up on Raw with the draft taking place. But I think Drew would have a better chance of rising to the top on Raw. It seems that Seth Rollins will stay on Raw as well, and we've still not had a full program with them two yet, so I think that that one could work quite well. If I was to have my way with the booking, I would actually switch Randy Orton to Monday Night Raw. And I think him and Drew McIntyre would have a very good feud, a face Orton, because at the moment Orton, I do like a heel Orton, but I do feel that maybe in a month or two would become pretty stale. Maybe it could be fun to switch up. We have so many heels right now, and Randy Orton is someone that it could be generally liked quite quickly, especially with his RKO finish. And I think he would be a great suited opponent for Drew McIntyre going forward. So for me, I'd keep Drew McIntyre. That's the focus of this on Raw. I think that'll be the best way of him getting to the main event, and maybe somewhere down the line, maybe become a top guy on SmackDown. But for right now, he's better on what would be the B show, or arguably the C show these days. Yeah, Raw is the place I would keep Mr. Drew McIntyre. Next question comes from Dominic Mosley. He says, do you think WWE should bring back the Booker role instead of using a creative team? Great question, this one. I really like this question because for me, someone who's always been interested in the booking side of things in WWE, I've always been one of those fantasy bookers. I love the idea of being creative, and I think that the best way to have creativity and to put out a good show is to have a small team of writers, not to have so many people influencing what's going on. A creative team, particularly depending how many's in that team, I think is the crucial part of this answer, really. But the rumour is that WWE has so many people involved with a creative team that, okay, yes, there's a great idea that you can get many ideas come from many different heads, but to try and put it into one show is very difficult. And as well as that, when you look at it and say, right, okay, this week, one person of the creative team will be taking care. Let's just take the last question, for example. I said I'd like to book a Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre feud. 1 week, one creative person's doing that. The next week, someone else is taking over the role. And the week after, someone else is writing for it. It's hard to get a consistent storyline, and I'm not a fan of that. I've always been a fan of maybe one person with maybe 2 or 3 people around that person, and that one head booker makes the full decision for everything in the show. I even think that maybe it's too much to come up with the creativity for so many hours of television every week. But I mean, for example, Paul Heyman is a big creative influence on Raw. I'm pretty sure that he is capable of handling Raw with 1 or 2 people, giving him some extra flavours to his ideas and him coming with the ultimate decision of what goes on. With 20, 30 people, or even 10 people, I just think it's too many cooks in the kitchen. For me, it's too much, and I think that that's probably a big reason why I think we get a lot of inconsistent writing these days in WWE, regardless of if it's Raw, SmackDown. I mean, I don't know the creative structure in NXT, but that seems to be a lot more tight-knit. And from what I believe, I don't believe that that team is as big. And yeah, for me, I think NXT thrives. And you can see with Raw and SmackDown that things, sometimes there's a lot of loopholes in storylines to what a viewer seems to criticise about. And maybe it would be better if it was maybe one, maybe two people only involved with the creative process. I would say that I do think it's always good to have a couple of people in a creative process, like with a head booker, because one person in one way only has one idea, and I think sometimes it is good to bounce those ideas off somebody to be told whether it's a good idea, a bad idea, or maybe, just maybe, there could be just inspirations by talking about it that you can come up with something even better than what you've done initially, of course. Because a lot of times with a lot of things we have today, they're not done with just one bit. They take 2 or 3 goes, and sometimes it looks like maybe if you do a first draft of the show, you talk about it with maybe the next person in line on the book and creative style. You look at it and say, right, okay, that person gives another idea and goes, oh yeah, we'll change that and add a second draft to that bit, but it's actually better than the first because they've had a chance to bounce the ideas off each other. But instead of bouncing off around 20, 25 different people, just 1 or 2, and I think that that is a lot better suited for a more consistent, settled product when we watch professional wrestling. Next question comes from Daniel Decius. In their prime, who would have won in a match between Goldberg versus Stone Cold Steve Austin? I love this question. Of course, it's a what if, and we're never really going to know. And for me, I would say that, of course, in their prime, of course, with them when the Monday Night Wars, once again, the WCW and WWE. So it kind of comes across of, depends which show that it would be booked on, but we do know Goldberg was eventually in WWE, of course, when WCW folded. Steve Austin, unfortunately, his last match was, of course, the night before Goldberg debuted. Should this match have taken place, and maybe even in 2003, you could have argued maybe that Goldberg, as he was sticking around at that time and Steve Austin wasn't, that he could be the guy to go over. But I just kind of feel that Steve Austin was the biggest draw in wrestling, period, for the most successful era. I personally can't see anyone that would be different in the victory than Steve Austin. I mean, Goldberg was good, but Steve Austin was just a different level for me, and for me, would go with Stone Cold. I would have loved to see the storyline play out with these two, and to be honest, I would still not rule it out. I mean, there was a lot of rumours going around recently that that there could be one more match for Steve Austin. I'm still not convinced that that would ever happen, but Goldberg is willing to still get in the ring. One of these Saudi Arabia shows, maybe, that it could be something in the future. I wouldn't put it past. It's a place where legends come back to have their matches and have another go in the spotlight. But I still think, even if they did it today, I would think Steve Austin would go over. I just think for a WWE ego standpoint, I just don't think they'd have Steve Austin lose. Next question. Ringside Rant. Favourite wrestling moment ever? Well, there's been so many over the years. It depends really what you go to look for. If you want a feel-good story, if it's a moment in a match, a shock value, there's lots of different things depending on what you're looking for. From a shock value perspective, I mean, the Hell in a Cell 1998 King of the Ring with Undertaker and Mankind is still up there as probably one of my favourite matches of all time, just purely because of the spectacle of what it was, not simply from a technical masterpiece. And I do think that night alone technically could have won the battle with WWE and WCW. I think that those had a lot of the more special moments for me in wrestling history because of the fact that when you were living and going through with those, everything meant something, and each time someone did something that made a big shocking impact, immediately everyone's eyes went to that product. So if WCW did something major, your eyes went to WCW. If it was the other way, it went to WWE. And I do think that with Hell in a Cell, that was definitely one of the most magic parts. From a feel-good storyline point of view, I would say that, Daniel Bryan is something that would be up there from WrestleMania 30. It was a very special moment, the way it played out. But for me, I would go with WrestleMania 12. The boyhood dream comes true. The Iron Man match, just the result. I was a big fan of Shawn Michaels, and he was, growing up, one of my favourites. Bret Hart was initially one of my very first favourites when I started watching, but Shawn Michaels took over, and it was his time. And I don't know, being in the age group I was still fairly young at the time. I always deemed that as a very special moment. So for me, I think that one is going to take it for this question here, because Shawn Michaels was one of my favourites of all time, and of course, nothing more special than winning the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. It doesn't really get much bigger and better than that. Next question comes from a White Man Podcast. What's your favourite finisher right now? So many to choose from. I mean, I love a finisher. Nothing defines a match better than when you see that finisher hit and you get that satisfaction of seeing the 1, 2, 3. You just the build up to those moments as well can be very special in the match. And of course, depending on the finisher, it depends what you look for. Some people love a sudden impact, like an RKO, and it definitely is something up there. But for me, I'm going to say I love two, maybe three particular finishers at the moment. From a high-flying perspective, I love the 630 from Ricochet, just purely because of the fact that the first time I seen him do it under the gimmick of Prince Puma in Lucha Underground, I thought it was very special, and I'd never really seen anything like it before and didn't think it was possible. Anything that seems to be done on a high-flying perspective, Ricochet seems to be able to do it and just do it so special, even though now we see perhaps more wrestlers do it recently, maybe in Mexico or in AEW, but for me, I still hold that as a high regard of a finisher from Ricochet. The Styles Clash is always going to be one of my favourite finishers, and still, of course, is used right now, so it's always good to see. And I think AJ Styles, it looks so much better than the Phenomenal Forearm. The one that's going to take it for me, though, as a favourite finisher overall, I do love double team finishers, tag team finishers. I used to love the 3D, was one of my favourites when the Dudleys hit that. It always has a big impact move. For me, kind of a similar feeling these days. I love the Shatter Machine from the Revival. That will be my favourite finisher right now because I find it so creative, and it is a move that can be sudden, can come out of nowhere, and usually it's a game changer. You know that when that hits, the bell is going to ring. Next question comes from Dylan Ketchum. What did you think of AEW Dynamite? Well, it was a very refreshing product. I'm going to give a short answer for this because, of course, there was a podcast done last week, which is available now for you here on YouTube. You can check out. It was This Week in Wrestling, of course, the premiere week for Raw, NXT, AEW, and SmackDown. James still was on here with me, and we were talking, giving our, reflecting on all the shows. So in great detail, we were talking about AEW Dynamite. But to give you for a couple of minutes my feeling on it, I do think it was a refreshing product. I thought that I loved the look of the set, and of course we have seen this set used for Double or Nothing as well in the past and some of the other shows that they've done, but I feel that it looks mainstream, and I think that definitely was a standout between that and NXT. And I think for a lot of casual fans, I think that is going to draw a lot of people into AEW's Dynamite. I think they did a great job in building Sammy Guevara. I loved the stable that was put together from Chris Jericho, although no, I do find it a bit random still, even though it's nearly a week on. But I'm hoping there'll be an explanation of what this stable represents and what it means. I do love that with a stable when there's a story behind it, and I'm sure Chris Jericho is going to have a good reason of why these guys are together. Maybe it's just simply to take out the Elite, but we'll have to wait and see. But I do think there were some good matches. There was some good build in the show, and I hope that they continue to keep that momentum, because I think that's what AEW will need to do. I do like as well that each match seemed to have a bit of a story towards it as well. That was very interesting for me. Hangman and Pac particularly, I love the style and the finish of it. Even though I didn't agree with the result, I thought Hangman should have gone over. The result and the way that the story was told there, it was quite simple that Pac had to cheat. And I don't know, there were subtle things that were put in on this show that were really cool. And even though there were some things that I thought were negative about the show, maybe perhaps some of the results, definitely with Jon Moxley interfering in the 6-man tag team match and not a disqualification was given, the match still continued, which I found was a little bit strange. I did still love the battle and the brawl in the VIP area. And of course, that DDT through the glass table was absolutely gruesome with Moxley and Omega. So there were a lot of pros, maybe a few negatives, but I'm pretty sure that on the whole it was very well received. And hopefully AEW will continue to keep that momentum going forward. Last question comes from Pro Wrestling Talk. Did you agree that AEW talent should be exclusive to AEW? Like when someone joins WWE, they're exclusive to them and can't work elsewhere. I think now, particularly that AEW is on weekly TV, I agree. I believe that AEW should be keeping their talents exclusive. Not because of the fact that talents can't work other shows and shouldn't be able to work shows. But it's more the case of when you are on television, and they're on a high-profile television network as well. It's not as if it's some underground network. You're not doing TV tapings where something's lasting for a few weeks and someone has time to heal. When it comes to this, this is live TV every single week. You've got continuity going on. You can have big stars in big storylines, and you're trying to pave the way to make a true competitor here to WWE, or at least be, the standout number 2 company where any free agent feels that if they have a better opportunity to go there than WWE, that they can help build them to get even better. AEW is in such a special position that, and I've heard they're giving good contracts out as well for what they're doing. So I don't see why there is a need for other superstars to be wrestling in other promotions. Okay, maybe some of the real minor guys, maybe it's okay. Maybe someone that's a curtain jerker that's not going to be missed, maybe it's okay. But I think for main event talent, for example, John Moxley got injured earlier this year, and he wasn't able to take place at the All Out show. And I think that was a big disappointment. A lot of people really were looking forward to seeing that match there. Of course, it's been booked for a later date. There's more build towards it. Maybe in the long run, it's going to prove to be better. But at the same time, I just feel for myself that what if a superstar went and did a show somewhere else, got injured for a year? It could really be detrimental to what AEW is trying to build. So for me, I agree. I think talent should be exclusive. I don't see the need for them to have to compete elsewhere. If they are doing, I suppose, this idea where they're going to do some teamworks with some other promotions, perhaps AAA, maybe some, like they have some deals going with some other companies and that, maybe I suppose they have to do appearances here and there. But if they really have to do them, they should do some really safe style matches. Don't go all out for those, so to speak. But that's all from me anyway here on Ask SCW. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please like, share and subscribe. I want to thank everybody that's been subscribing to the channel. We have hit 350 subscribers, so thank you so much. The road begins now to 400, and hopefully we can do that very soon. Please keep spreading the word of Ask SCW, SCW, the wrestling channel in general. I will try and provide more on this channel during the week. Of course, the draft is taking place this week. I want to do a little bit of research into it before I give you a few picks of who I think will end up where, or particularly definitely different shows to what they're currently assigned to right now. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time here on YouTube, and I wish you guys a great afternoon, and make sure to follow everyone on Twitter and subscribe to those that have asked the questions via YouTube as well. Support everybody here. Of course, we're a big wrestling community, and it's always good to share the love. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.